Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I get to go to Pittsburgh this weekend, eat some French fries on sandwiches, coach a little youth hockey, and looked at the forecast, and it's like, oh, it's supposed to be 5 to 8 inches of snow on the day we're supposed to be driving back. That's good. That seems good. That seems like how I want to drive through Western Pennsylvania and Eastern Ohio. Good. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, universe.
Yeah. And the good news, there's no hills or anything to worry about in Pittsburgh. So
no, it's fine. Yeah, no, it'll be totally fine. So it's cool. Yeah.
My advice would be don't park the car up a hill because you may not be able to get to it through the ice. And then you have to then bring that car down the hill and there may be no stopping. So just flat land, as flat as you can find it. Maybe park it, I don't know, Youngstown.
Yeah, just park on one of the bridges or something, like just the outfield of the Pirates Stadium. Like they're not doing anything with it this time of year.
Yeah. Make use, like upcycle. That's what we like to do here. Similarly, we're doing a listener question episode today. And we'll go through some questions and probably do the same thing for tomorrow's show. We'll see how it goes unless some news breaks. But we're just trying to, Tom, provide the people with something to listen to during the off season while we wait for stuff to happen. And we don't like people going cold turkey off of Buckeye Weekly. You know, it's a daily show for so long that if we go back to weekly, I couldn't even imagine such a thing, and I'm sure the people couldn't imagine it either. So this is not for us, Tom. This is for the people.
Yeah, this is like a Nicorette gum podcast. Like, you know, we know getting clean off of college football season is not going to be easy, but we have, you know, here's a podcast. Chew this, and hopefully it will make you make the transition go a little smoother for you.
Perfect. So let's get started.
So we have a bunch of questions all in the same vein. So I'll read all 4 of them and then we can kind of lump them together. From at Chris_Estes1, I don't believe Kerry Coombs forgot how to coach defensive backs. Does he stay on the staff for 22? From at John Anastasio 56, still some shaping of the defensive staff to go. Predictions at each position. At VCS Buck, are the coaching changes done? At VA Buck 89, any thoughts on whether the new DC wants an additional coach on the defensive side of the ball versus having a designated special teams coach? Tony, I get the sense that people want us to talk about the coaching staff. What do you think? Am I reading that right?
No, I think you're right, but you know, it's too soon to tell, Tom. Let's go to the next question. No, this has been really interesting, and I don't know if annoying is the right word, because we hear stuff and then you discuss it with other people who are hearing sometimes the opposite, and things change by the day. So if I'm going to throw some predictions out, or, you know, are the coaching changes done? For one, no, I don't think they're done because there's still stuff going on. And, but like, just think how many times you've heard something and what that prediction would have been that day, and then what it would be the next day. And there are times for me, it would have been completely the opposite in terms of who was staying and who was going. And you're just riding this wave, and I don't care for it. It's, you know, it is what it is. That's the season. We all love the hot stove league, but I also prefer to have information that I'm hearing be accurate, you know, but also it feels, and we've said this, you've said this, Tom, like the information was so different that it felt like Ryan Day wasn't sure what he was doing yet.
Yeah. And when we have people who generally have very good sources on our staff saying contradictory things, sometimes within a couple hours of each other, like directly contradictory, like this guy sounds like he's staying. Nope. This guy sounds like he's leaving. Nope. These 2 guys are leaving. Wait, no, those are the 2 guys who are staying. And actually 2 other people are leaving. Like, and this is like back and forth in the span of 24 to 36 hours. This is unlike pretty much anything else I can remember in terms of like people sort of sharing information behind the scenes. And I'm sure people are wondering, why aren't they sharing this publicly? Well, here's how this works. We have to have 2 sources that say something very specific. And if that's the case, then you can report it. You don't just get a text from someone and go zipping off to the message board or zipping off to the podcast to say, aha, here's what's going to happen. Because sometimes that person is wrong. Sometimes that person's information is incomplete. Sometimes that person may have heard something that was true, but it's not necessarily, someone changes their mind. Like we want to get it right. That's the important thing. And the information has changed so much. I think I've shared this on the podcast before, but literally at the Rose Bowl on January 1st, I got a text saying this person is almost certainly not going to be back next year, followed about 90 minutes later saying, actually, I'm hearing this person is going to be back this year. It's like, well, okay. One of those pieces of information is definitely going to be right. Probably. Unless someone leaves in the middle of the year, in which case they were both sort of right and sort of wrong. Like this has been wild. And I think the only thing I feel safe in saying is that they're not done making changes. But, there's been so much conflicting information out there that it's like, it would not completely shock me to see any individual additional member of the defensive coaching staff stay or go. Like, I don't think I'd feel 95% sure, 90% sure in saying stay or go on any of them at this point.
Yeah. That's where I am as well. And even the story that I told after the game where Kerry Coombs was getting his picture taken with people and it looked like this was it. Now it's looking like it may not be it. And you try to share, like sharing that at that point, that's just what we saw. That's just what I saw or what I was told about other people seeing. So it's like, I wasn't reporting that he was leaving or anything. It's like, this is some of the stuff you see on the field. You talk about, and that's what we do. And then feelings change, moods change, but I don't even know that that's not accurate yet because maybe he will leave, but I do think there's still going to be some changes. And I don't even, in terms of predictions at each position, I wonder, is it even safe to do that?
No, not really. Cause I've heard individual names of people who, may be coming in to talk, and I've heard that Ryan Day is interviewing people, but even knowing who I've heard he's interviewing, I'm not sure what, does that mean someone on staff is shifting to another position? Does that mean that someone on staff is leaving? Does that mean, to VA Buck's question, are they going to hire an additional defensive coach and no defensive coach is leaving? And Parker Fleming, the special teams coordinator, might be, the guy who's, standing up when the music stops. Again, I would put him in I would not put 90% yes or 90% no on him. Like, it's just, yeah. I mean, there are going to be, the only thing I feel super safe saying is there are going to be additional change, parentheses, S, parentheses. Like, it's like at least one more change, quite possibly two changes. I wouldn't expect more than two additional changes, I don't think, but 1 to 2 more changes I would expect, but specific names or, specific names in, specific names out, like at this point, like I don't feel like we have anything in a reportable form.
Yeah. And if there are fewer than 2, I think at this point I will be surprised, like 2 more, because if it just holds to 1, then that would kind of go in the face of what we've been hearing, which has been this entire process. So I'm going to say 1, Tom, or 2.
Definitely 1 or 2, unless it's 3 or 0.
Oh,
definitely not 7. I feel confident saying definitely not 7 more changes. Next one from @Chris J. Jimenez. I'd like to hear a bold prediction segment on which sleeper player may crack the starting lineup. And I think we may have to set aside our traditional arguing over bold, the inherent boldness of predictions, because I feel like,
right,
unless I'm going to pick, a true threat, Caleb Burton walks on and unseats one of the wide receivers. Like, outside of that, like, I don't know how bold we're going to be. What constitutes bold for purposes of this? If I say JT Tuimoloau as a starter day 1, is that bold, or is that just kind of meh?
No, because I expect him to be a starter. Like, even if Zach Harrison is back, I think he starts over Tyler Friday and JJB. So no, I didn't even consider that one because it was That's just understood, Tom. So we are going to have to get into our bickering about the boldness.
I mean, he's not really a sleeper, but again, what constitutes a sleeper here? Like I feel like the two outside corners are the two outside corners. I don't expect anyone else to jump in there, right? I mean, and the safeties positions are so unsettled that
that's where you have to go, right? The safeties,
I guess, but okay. Which of these names? You stop me when you get to a sleeper. Bryson Shaw, Court Williams, Josh Proctor, Tanner McAllister, Cameron Martinez. I mean, like these are all legitimate candidates. I don't know that I consider any of them a sleeper. Is Bryson Shaw might start again next year? Is that bold? It feels like people might think that's bold.
You know what? That's an interesting one. And that very well could be the case. And I think you may have upset some people, but another year in the system. I think like Ronnie Hickman last year, if we would have said Ronnie Hickman at this point last year, for one, we wouldn't have. I don't think we would have at this point, but that would have come through with flying colors. I'm thinking just Court Williams qualified. Now, where is he playing? Like,
yeah. I'm
still confused about what exactly is that the 4-2-5. What is that hybrid going to be? Will it be sometimes be a Court Williams, or is Court Williams now a full-time linebacker? And if he is, that's Steele Chambers' position, because neither one of those two guys is going to be a middle linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
But are they going to play some 4-3 or some 3-4-4? I mean, I don't know where, but I'll just say Court Williams. But even then, sure, Lathan Ransom is likely out, but Court Williams either plays the same position as Ronnie Hickman, or he plays the same position as Tanner McAllister, or he plays the same position as Steele Chambers. Maybe, Tom, he plays all of those same positions, and that's why he actually gets to play.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and on the other side of the ball, if I say, there are two guys coming back with starting experience at guard, Matt Jones, Harry Miller. If I say Donovan Jackson earns a starting position at guard, is that bold? Maybe that's the answer.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. I think even saying Harry Miller, I think, is kind of bold. Yes, he is a pass starter, but I think a lot of people have kind of, I don't want to say given up on him, but you miss a season and people kind of just move on. So Donovan Jackson is a good one. I'm thinking, like, what about like Josh Frye at a tackle? I'm not even going to go there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously you got Paris Johnson, you got DeJuan Jones. Those are the two guys that it has to be. Or else I think there might be some concern for new offensive line coach Justin Frye.
Well, and as of the time we're recording this, DeJuan Jones hasn't declared for the NFL yet, but that's theoretically a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So if DeJuan Jones leave, then Enoch Vamahi, Josh Fryer, someone like that could be a starting tackle next year. That's a possibility. Donovan Jackson could. Wouldn't it be funny if after a year of playing 4 tackles, if they take a guy who's projected as a guard and kick him out to tackle? Wouldn't that be a fun turn of events? Next one from @VW Chad W. Have you guys incorporated vegan meat into your diet yet?
Tom, I have a terrible, tragic story to tell you that just happened to me yesterday. Or when I say yesterday, the day before we recorded this. So
when he says yesterday, he means the day before today. That's what he means.
Yes. Thank you. It was, I don't know if it was the worst thing to ever happen to me, but it may have been. So I went to the drive-thru at Taco Bell, and I used the app because the app is never wrong. It works. You can customize whatever you want. I ordered a couple of beef burritos, and on one, I ordered 2 of them. On one, I added potatoes and tomatoes, and the other I added like jalapenos and tomatoes. Remove the sour cream because it's a pointless condiment. And then I get home and I take a bite out of one, and there's no beef. There's no beef in my beef burrito. So it's just a vegetarian burrito. Now, fortunately, it still has rice and potatoes and tomatoes and cheese. So it's got the 4 food groups. The second one I take a bite, and there's no meat. Now, again, it's rice, beans, and jalapenos and cheese, so it's like it's still eatable. But to not get the beef out of the beef burritos is very disappointing. And so, no, technically that was not vegan. I have eaten vegan meals before. They're fine, but this was just, I did not pay for a vegetarian burrito, let alone two. And I got two of those and very upset, almost tweeted about it to Taco Bell corporate, but I'm sure they've got bigger problems on their hands right now. And, it's just the fast food industry as a whole. They're just trying to stay afloat. So I didn't want to bother them, but very disappointed. I thank you for asking, Tom.
You'll be in my prayers. Yeah, the Impossible Whopper at Burger King is not terrible. That's not bad. It's you put all the other Whopper stuff on there, and it's you get the flame broiled taste that they, I don't know, add with liquid smoke or whatever it is that they do, and it's that is a passable, that can pass for a Whopper. My wife will every once in a while just go pick up the Impossible ground beef, and we'll grill that out. And it's like, again, if you grill it and you put some stuff on it, it's like you can dress that up, and it's like, that's meat adjacent, I guess. So yeah, that's not, I have, but not generally, so let's say I have introduced it grudgingly and infrequently, but it is something that I have experienced before. Yes. Yeah.
We've done the Beyond Meat burgers as well. Really, you need to smash those better. They're very thick, and they have like beet juice to replicate the blood. So there is that. I mean, it's fine. I know Del Taco on the east side also has vegan meats. The sofritas from Chipotle, it's not vegan meat, but it is soy-based meat substitute, are pretty good because it's all seasoning. I will not do their vegan chorizo though, because chorizo is so just spices and flavorful that I don't think you'll just taste the spices and it won't actually be legitimate. But yeah, I've not done the Impossible Whopper. My wife does that. I'm still regular Whopper with cheese.
Well, I'll tell you what, the next time you and me and Kevin are on a road trip, I'll drive us to Burger King. We know Kevin loves it, and we'll try that out there.
We can also try to find out which Burger King has the best Impossible Whopper among our trip.
Oh, smart. Yeah. Just hit over and over and over again. Just Scoop Eats segment after Scoop Eats segment. All right. This is our fourth Impossible Whopper of the day. Why is Kevin standing on the roof of the building? Oh no, he's jumping. Oh no, Kevin, no, come down. All right. Next one from @Walter Return Walter E. Turner RN. There we go. Every once in a while, it's just a long string of letters, and it's like, this feels like one of those word jumbles where, yes, I saw several different words all at once. I would suggest a 1v1 comparison of our tight ends and why the fan base would be excited about Billingsley from Bama hitting the portal. That is Jahleel Billingsley, the tight end from Alabama. We talked about him, I think, a little bit on the live show that we did yesterday. He's someone who would you comp him to most closely? G. Scott among the current tight ends, where it's, he's kind of like the receiving tight end because he's listed at 230 or so. He's a little undersized for what I think they really want, which is like the big Cade Stover sized blocking tight end, which is somewhat ironic because they had a Cade Stover sized blocking tight end and then moved him to defense. But, I don't know that he's exactly what they're looking for in terms of that tight end. Like, I think they would probably like a Luke Farrell type. Like a Luke Farrell type, I think would be exactly what they would like. But I don't think Billingsley is really what, I don't think he's a Luke Farrell. Am I wrong on anything there?
No, not at all. And really, I know they list Billingsley as like 6'4", 230. He's not. He's probably closer to 6'2". 17 catches this year, 18 last year. I mean, Jeremy Ruckert had 26 this year. So the idea that, Billingsley is this just 40, 50 catches or whatever, that's what he needs. Maybe that's not quite accurate. And maybe he would be happy at Ohio State getting as much action as Jeremy Ruckert But also, as I said on the live show, this is a guy that has frustrated Nick Saban and seemingly frustrated the people at Alabama. So why is it you would then bring him into your program if you're Ryan Day? And I think this goes along with the Eli Ricks thing. Obviously, they're not afraid of bringing guys in because you see the Chip Trainum, you see the Tanner McAllister. But as Ryan Day has said from the outset, they need to be cultural fits. And maybe Billingsley is. I mean, Ohio State was looking at him. They were recruiting him hard back in the day. And maybe they still see that same prospect and that same person. But they're going to do their research. And if they find some red flags, then either they're going to assess those or just remove him from their quote unquote draft board entirely. So I don't know which it'll be, but we know they were looking at tight ends in the transfer portal. This would be one of the better ones, but I think they've got what he can do. And you've invested so much time in G. Scott at this point. G. Scott has invested so much time to then make this move. No, I'm not talking about, you're coddling players. You don't want players to be upset. It's like, you've invested this. So see where it goes. And I think the potential is there.
Yeah. And, they like G. Scott. They like G. Scott as a player. They like G. Scott as a person. Like, there's no reason to upset G. Scott for what is, potentially like a very, very marginal upgrade. If it's an upgrade at all, that doesn't seem like a real good risk reward for them at this point. So speaking of names that you could split in any number of different ways, at 911 Pool Rescue or at 911 Poo L Rescue. I mean, there's lots of possibilities there. I think it's at 911 Pool Rescue. Is the hiring of a new offensive line coach a direct result of the size and speed of the two teams from the South? Now, I mean, I don't think it's a direct result of, the Alabama and Georgia offensive lines and what they look like. I think it's a result of, you talk to pretty much anyone around the program, and the recruiting at offensive line was not what it needed to be the last few years, and they have two of the last three classes, 2022 and 2020. The offensive line was probably the biggest question mark, potential hole, however you want to frame it, in terms of position groups in the recruiting class. It doesn't mean they've gotten terrible players. Doesn't mean it was a bad offensive line this year. It just means the recruiting standard at all the other positions seems to be higher than the recruiting standard at offensive line right now on the whole in the class. And if you can upgrade that, you should upgrade that. I think that's pretty much the long and the short of it, just sort of recruiting results, recruiting effort out of that position group. And, I think the reflexive defense of Greg Studwara from people who are, inclined to defend him is, well, look at this year's results. And, they were great this year. Number one offense. It's like, well, yes, I don't know if we're giving Greg Studwara all of the credit for CJ Stroud and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, but, the offensive line was part of that. But the results on the field in terms of recruiting on offensive line, that's a little bit of a lagging indicator of recruiting classes, because recruiting classes on an offensive line, when it takes a couple of years for guys to develop, when you miss in a class or two, or you miss in 2 out of 3 classes on a lot of your top targets, that's something that you're not going to see it this year. You're going to see it 2 years from now. You're going to see it 3 years from now. That's where you're going to see that, where they're going to have to probably bring in a couple transfers to kind of patch over those holes for the guys that, all the Zach Rices that looked like, oh boy, Ohio State's right in this 12 months before signing day. And then Ohio State ends up not being in it when it's signing day time, and every Keontae Goodwin they missed out on, and every Emil Wagner they missed out on, and on and on and on. That's the kind of stuff that you're not going to see it this year. You're going to see it, 2023, 2024, when those guys would normally have been there for a couple of years, started, get in that strength program, build up their technique, work their way up the depth chart, and then they're the starters in a couple of years in their second, third year in the program. That's when you're really going to see that.
Yeah, obviously the offensive line coach has to recruit more players than any other coach. But you look at the other positions, they may take one flyer, like Larry Johnson recruiting the defensive line may beg to be like, please let me just take Darius Slade and see what I can do with him.
Mm-hmm.
Or let's let me have Javonte Jean-Baptiste. Let me see what we could do with him. And it's one guy of the class. And really, what other positions are there even flyers per se? But
Darren Lee was a good example.
Yeah, and that was 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but now it's like these flyers are sometimes half of the offensive line class in 2 out of 3 years. And when you do that, then when half of your class are the guys you're like, well, we got to get somebody. That's not good. And so I think it was the performance against Michigan, rushing for 60 odd yards and giving up 4 sacks, 3 to Aiden Hutchinson and 1 to David Ojabo, the 2 guys you had to concern yourselves with. And then it's also the recruiting and the concern for where are the tackles? Because after this year, if Paris Johnson goes pro after this year, and DeJuan Jones we know will be, and when I say this year, we have officially moved to 2022, even if maybe we don't say it all the time, but like you're looking for 2 new starting tackles perhaps in 2023, and couldn't begin to. I mean, I can begin to tell you who they are, but it's not a long list, and it's not it's no guys who were brought here to play tackle.
Yeah, it's guys who could play tackle, but aren't necessarily your prototypical tackles, are far from guarantees to be, immediately good tackles. They have had consistently good tackle play over the last few years, but it has been, you're looking at, I mean, some of the names I mentioned earlier, Enoch Vamahi, Josh Fryer, Donovan Jackson, like those are guys who could do it. And I mean, Trey LaRue is still a possibility if he's athletic enough. Can he play the tackle position at the level they need him to? They haven't asked him to yet, but they have people in there that could do it, but you don't have, this year, Paris Johnson moving from right guard to left tackle, you just kind of like pencil that in and it's like, yeah, it'll be fine. Like he's good. He's got the athleticism. He's got the strength. He's the 5-star guy they got in state. They've missed on other 5-star guys in state, other 4-star guys in state that like that adds up. This is the same conversation we had about linebackers at one point, or about the offensive line in 2018, where it was just they were so thin on the offensive line that it's not a position you can just fix overnight. They had, you have to bring in a Jonah Jackson to kind of patch over those holes a little bit. We saw that, you're still a little bit seeing the end of the Taver Johnson bubble at cornerback, where they're still kind of thin in certain spots because they missed on a couple of guys. They've lost guys at the early signing day deadline 3 out of the last 4 years at cornerback. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that adds up, where all of a sudden in 2020 and 2021, it's like, boy, if they only had another couple cornerbacks, boy, they would really, you put Jordan Battle on the 2020 Buckeyes, you put Clark Phillips on the 2021 Buckeyes, like those teams look a little different, but they don't have them. So that's kind of that lag. And Taver Johnson was long gone before this actually became a problem. It's going to kind of be the same thing with Greg Studwara, where a year or two from now, people are going, if they're thin on the offensive line, people are going to go, well, it wasn't like this when Greg Studwara was here. It was like, well, it's like that because Greg Studwara was here a couple of years ago.
Yeah, there's going to be, and I expect the offensive line to be fine in 2022. Mm-hmm. But if it takes a step back in 2023, people are going to point at Justin Frye, and it's like, well, this is what he has to work with, and this is I wouldn't be surprised if he has to recruit a starter for 2023, like a true freshman starter. Just the fact that they were trying to get an offensive tackle, get the guy from FIU in the transfer portal this year, a left tackle, and he was I think he was a redshirt sophomore eligibility wise for 2022, and he could have been that guy down the road. I think, like, I don't know where he would have played this year. And when I say this year, again, 2022, but it's clear, like, well, they're thinking about the future, and they're going to have to continue to look at the portal, I would guess. Now, the good thing is players are going to see that opportunity as well. And that, it becomes like the quarterback situation where, oh, really, Ohio State needs an offensive tackle. I'm I'm intrigued, and that's where Mark Pantoni and his staff will be looking. But again, these guys aren't going to be in the portal, and a lot of them won't be in the portal until they see like there's opportunity. So, you're still going to be like all of the guys you scout when you're playing against them, like you'll see like guys from Indiana or guys from Purdue or Iowa or whatever, like those are all good guys. And then when they hit the portal, you're like, oh, I remember scouting those guys.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get on those guys because those guys are pretty good. I think you'll see some of that, but really and some people think it's silly to talk about 2023, but on the offensive line, you got to look years in advance. And I think that was another reason why it was time for Ryan Day to do what he did. Tom, I think we're at the 30-minute mark.
I think we are. I think the buzzer just went off.
It did. So let's go ahead and cut this one, unless you have anything else to say, which please don't.
I definitely won't talk because I know you don't want me to talk. And I respect your opinion, and I respect your wants, and I respect your time, and I respect you. And have I mentioned that I respect what you want? And as a result of you not wanting me to talk, I'm definitely not going to talk because, Tony, I know you don't want me to talk. And I know I can see you really want to wrap the show up right now. And that's why I want to make sure you recognize that I recognize and respect the fact that you want to wrap this show up and you don't want me to talk anymore. And that's why, Tony, I'm not going to talk anymore. After I just say once again how much I respect you and what I know that you want for this podcast, because now you want what's best for this podcast. And that's what I want to.
Thank you.
And
Tom.
Furthermore, okay.
All right. That will do it. Now 40 minutes. Good job, Tom. Great job. So that will do it for this one. We will get back to some questions for tomorrow's show, unless something happens and we have to push those to the next day. And maybe this is the time of year where anything can happen. So dare to dream. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys later.